Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I was using a digital camera and it only recorded for 9 minutes. So I'm going to pick up from where we left off, and I'm going to give you the tracking numbers of the letters that I've sent and who I've sent letters to gain evidence under GDPR and SAR and also PACE. And these organisations that I've contacted are between the local police, if you like, and the court system, and all the way up to His Majesty's Courts and Tribunals, obviously the King or the Queen, depending on who you decide HM is. I'm just going to read off the screen. I sent the Reed's report, which I'll post for you. Now, Daniel Reed is Crown Prosecution Services, my belief. He attended my interview on the 9th of the 9th, 2024 at 12:20 and presented himself as my defence solicitor. In the pre-meeting, he stated to me, "This is your time to defend yourself." He came with no evidence. He then sat silently during the interview for the best part of an hour until I removed Angel Number Post from my Facebook, which I deemed unimportant. There was no relevance to the allegations that were made, and you'll see in the bail sheets. This is Article 9, discrimination upon my beliefs. I'm a minister for the Church Life Ministries. I was ordained by B.R. Chamberlain. You can check on my Facebook. That was done the 8th of June 2024. I'm also registered on the British Institute of Cleaning Science and the National Institute of Innkeeping, Alcohol and Beverage. The Reed's report, which was supplied by Daniel Rowe, he said that he worked for Reed Solicitors, 10 Commercial Road, even though he had no business card. When I attended the property on the 11th of September 2024, he didn't have a business card on display either. All the business cards were for family law solicitors, not criminal. I was told that he was legal advisor by Gordon Hodson of Ross Solicitors Limited on Victoria Road. I've also got a document and the file from the arrest in court case in 2018 from then. I received that in November. I've written back to both. Reeds did not accept the documentation. They didn't accept that I was an official server, and there was official documents in there because there was a SAR request, a subject access request, under the General Data Protection Act 2018. They didn't accept it, though I have a firm belief they have read the document. Today I've had no response. I've had no response from Ross Solicitors either when I tore their documents apart to the file. That will also be posted. This is all part of evidence for the Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. I have so much documentation, I can't send it to you. I'm fearful that the post that I'm sending to you doesn't actually get to you because I've had no response. The first documents, the Reed report, went to on the 25th of October 2024, the Law Institute in Luxembourg. Their tracking number is Romeo November 553448925 Golf Bravo. I also wrote to Legal Aid on the same date, Kilo Delta 2900722128 Golf Bravo. The same day I wrote to GWILS, which is Gloucester and Wiltshire Law Society. They are supposed to be a charitable funded law society that aids in, I would believe, cases like this. I've had no response. I went to their building, told them that I was going to contact Strasbourg in March, was unable to be seen by Ramona, who is the head of GWILS in Swindon. I also rang and left her a voice message requesting that she aided me in filling out the paperwork for Strasbourg. I've been unable to find any law company to take this on. I had to create my own law company, Pendragon Globally. I took on the AK name of Arthur Pendragon II because that seemed appropriate, if you know your history. The GWILS tracking number is Kilo Delta 29007211 Golf Bravo. I also wrote to the FCA on the 26th of the 10th, whom I have no quarrel with. I believe that they are doing their utmost. If they're not, this is calling you out too. Their reference number is 0213-Charlie 6 Foxtrot -0318-Delta 669. I also wrote to the Law Societies Hall, who I believed would have some sort of power over these. Kilo Lima 0450307775 Golf Bravo. I was unable to ensure that they took delivery. In November, I wrote to the FCA again on the 14th of the 11th, 2024. Their reference number is Kilo Delta 2900734429 Golf Bravo. The ICO, who are the Information Commissioner's Office, the same date, 14th of November 2024, postage Kilo Delta 2900734415 Golf Bravo. The IOPC, the Independent Office of Police Conduct, same date, Kilo Delta 29003432 Golf Bravo. On the 20th of November, I wrote to the NPCC, the National Police Chiefs Council, Kilo Delta 2900641515 Golf Bravo, and the Ministry of Justice, the holder of all the files. Postage tracking number is Kilo Delta 2900645529 Golf Bravo. I have got some postage missing. There was additional letters sent. I will post all the letters that were sent and the replies that I sent. The replies that I post will be unsigned, but everything I sent was printed and signed. Nothing was emailed. Everything has been sent by post with recording delivery at my expense. To be clear, I'm on benefits. I get ESA, which £42 a fortnight is already being stolen by the local council, and they are failing to pay the housing benefit for my property, and I'm facing possession charges or a possession case in court. The Strasbourg numbers and the rest, there is a brief history. I've sealed all the envelopes for court evidence. I don't really want to go looking for the receipts at this moment in time. The reference number and the date for the first letter to Strasbourg is the 26th of the 3rd, 2025. The reference number is Romeo November 3806486642 Golf Bravo. I also wrote to the Judicial Service with some problems with the combined courts in Swindon after court cases were being messed around, civil cases, one against the council, one against the officer in charge of an arrest from the 9th of the 9th, 2024, we'll talk about that in a second, and 3 were a miscarriage of justice in 2018 from an arrest. Redhead and Jones, Ross Solicitors, and the Magistrates Court. All 5 cases were struck out. The Magistrates Court, this is very interesting for you that's ever been sentenced in Magistrates Court, is not a legal entity. Check the paperwork that I post. There's a court order judgment from Judge Humphreys saying that the Magistrate Court is not a legal entity. Therefore, they cannot sentence, charge, enforce fines, or do anything to you. If you've been charged and sentenced through a Magistrates Court, I suggest you appeal it, take the documentation from my Facebook account, and get it overturned. They weren't able to do anything to you. If you're in prison or you've got loved ones in prison, they'll be freed. On the 7th of May, I wrote another letter to Strasbourg, thanking them for the application form that they sent me. The tracking number is Romeo November 38064890 Golf Bravo. I also wrote to the housing department trying to appeal my housing benefit problem. The letters for housing benefit, the civic offices or Swindon Borough Council are all basically for the same thing, complaints for property disrepair and trying to get GDPR SAR requests sorted. The ICO told me they were investigating. I believe that documentation to be fake. You'll see it when I post it. Their reference number for the housing department is Kilo Delta 3334526 Golf Bravo. I attended a meeting on the 11th of June 2024 at the Link Centre for the housing. I printed off a lot of documents to try and aid my housing benefit. One was given to Councillor Janine Howarth. Again, documentation was posted. No response. In fact, until the 20th, 17th of this month, the housing department did nothing. I got 2 gaping holes in the wall that's letting cold air in. They came and put 2 radiators in, poorly. I wrote to His Majesty's or Her Majesty's Inspectorate for Constabulary and Fire Service. Their reference number is, and this was the 20th of June, Sierra Popper 612523142 Golf Bravo. They responded and said they don't take on individual cases. Again, I wrote to the civic offices, the council, probably to do with housing or SAR, Kilo Delta 333454285 Golf Bravo. I wrote to the FCA again on the 16th of July. Their reference number is Kilo Delta 333454299 Golf Bravo. I sent another document. This needed to be fully tracked and signed for. This was an appeal for the housing benefit decision. The reference number is 0213-Charlie 6 Foxtrot Charlie -022 Bravo -766 Bravo. I visited High Court in Bristol twice. This is the second occasion. I submitted High Court papers to appeal the housing benefit decision. The papers were issued to me and stated that they were issued. Today I've heard nothing. There was additional information which I believe they knew about. I responded and sent that to them. The reference number for that is Kilo Delta 334660768 Golf Bravo. They returned. I sent 3 copies, one for the claimant, one for the defendant, and one for the court. They kept the one for the court and returned the other 2. I also sent a letter back to housing on the same date, responding to the letter that I'd sent to, with the same response that I sent to High Court. The reference number is Kilo Delta 334666080 Golf Bravo. I felt the need to update Strasbourg, so on the 17th of the 9th, I sent them another letter. Romeo November 380649775 Golf Bravo. I was then arrested on the 28th of September this year, fraudulent crimes again. I was bailed. I was forcibly removed from my cell because I was quite happy to go and be presented in front of a judge the following morning. The custody sergeant Martin 2971 and the person that takes the photos and fingerprints pulled me out of the cell so violently they dragged my feet across the floor and scuffed the toes of my shoes. They pulled me out so quickly that when they stopped and lifted me up, and I'm disabled, they threw my legs forward and it looked like I was doing something from the rock and roll. Now, if you imagine in the 50s when they're doing rock and roll and the lady jumps up on the man catches her and she swings her legs around the waist and then comes back up. That's exactly what he was like. I wrote to the Gap Court telling them I wasn't guilty, and I had feared that I didn't need to appear, as it clearly stated in the documentation I have, which will be posted, that the first meeting or the first session will be full plea. I pleaded not guilty and told them to take me to Crown Court. I also included an invoice for fees. I've heard nothing. I've heard nothing about Crown Court. I haven't even received the initial pack, which should have been available on the 15th of October. I've heard nothing from them. Their reference number is Kilo Delta 334666703 Golf Bravo. I updated Strasbourg again with further information. Their reference number, and that was the 22nd of the 10th this year, Romeo Kilo 012580024 Golf Bravo. I'm just going to flick my screen back so I can see myself, as disappointing as that is. So, the 15th, let's go through the articles first. So, this is just some documentation that I've written, just loosely, bear with, and I'll tell you exactly what they are from this documentation here, which, I don't know if you can see that, has been sent from Strasbourg. It's the Court of Human Rights Charter. Forgive me. So we'll start with Article 1. I'm not going to read them to you. Apart from this one, it says obligation to respect human rights. You can just bear with me. Right. Article 1. Following evidence for 43 additional article breaches, some multiple times and by multiple agencies, all employed by King Charles III, head of His Majesty's Courts and Tribunals. I've now been arrested falsely 3 times, the 15th of the 4th, 2018, the 9th of the 9th, 2024, and the 28th of September, 2025. All breached Article 5. Article 5 is right to liberty and security, and if anybody has been arrested and they were given codes of practice or the offer of Code C whilst in custody and know your rights whilst detained, Article 5 is where that was written from in EU Directive 2012-2013. Article 5.1b. Arrests in 2018, 2024, 2025 were not lawful. We have been unable to obtain any documentation under General Data Protection Act 2018 or PACE under EU Directives 2012-2013. Article 5.1c. Wiltshire Police Constabulary arrests in 2018, 2024, 2025 did not meet PACE Code G, Section 24. Excuse me. Article 5.3, 2018, 2024. Well, we'll forget 25 because no, we'll go in 2025 as well. Breach provisions 5.1c, promptly 2024, 14 hours in custody, evidence squashed as non-existence in interview, 10th of the 9th, 2024, 12:20 until 1:25. Approximately 2018, held in custody 22:02. 15th of the 4th, 2018, until leaving court, 1600, 17th of the 4th, 2018. Interviewed by civilians, no legal counsel by Wiltshire Police. Custody zone omission, 2024 HIST. Minister Nathan Hartley was documented as vulnerable. Now, to personnel on the 28th of September, 2025, I was removed from my cell and taken to these 2 individuals. They weren't police officers, and so I decided that I was not going to be interviewed by civilians again. It's very clear in here that Article 5.3, before a judge, Article 1c of this article shall be brought promptly before a judge or other officer authorised by law to exercise judicial power and shall be entitled to trial within a reasonable time or release pending trial. Civilians, at least here in Swindon, it seems, and I'm not sure about the rest, there doesn't seem to be any detective constables, detective inspectors or detective sergeants anymore, even though I've got paperwork that says they are. I've only ever been interviewed by civilians. I decided that that wasn't going to happen to me again, and so I was forcibly removed from my cell because there was no crime. (514) Civil court paper submitted 10th of the 12th 2024 or struck out. Again, you'll see that, and that's where you'll find that the magistrates court is not a legal entity. 5.5. All contacted parties listed breached right to enforced compensation. I'm going to read this section to you just in case you've been imprisoned or you've been charged and sentenced in the magistrates court and you wish to have that overturned. Everyone who has been a victim of arrest or detention in contravention of the provisions of this article shall have an enforceable right to compensation. If only we knew where to go. Article 6 is right to fair trial. Article 6.1, 2018, Wiltshire Police, as noted, ARCO report, no further action. 18-month probation sentence served with the restraining order, destroyed family ties with all his children. 2024, false court documents issued from Swindon Combined Courts to Judicial Service as documented with yourselves. And this is for Strasbourg yourselves. And now also 2025, the 28th of September, because I was bailed to appear. Article 6.2, 2024. Scott Gleed stated waiting to issue civil papers when updated by Wiltshire Police arrest 9th of 2024 at 12:50. 2018 sentenced. Now what Mr. Gleed told me was that when I submitted my civil court papers, they weren't going to issue them until they knew the outcome of a criminal investigation, which was crap. You'll see from the documentation. I've got no evidence. I've sent lots of requests, the tracking numbers, and you'll see all the documentation. No one's responded. Well, they've told me to F off. We're not interested. From the complaints department in the local police force, all the way up to the inspectorate. Article 6.3c, 2024. Officer Cadence, 707. Not sure if that was his radio number or his shoulder number. Asked for a solicitor at 1:30 whilst waiting to be entered into Smart Water Suite 2, sat in a small van with detritus in it. That if attached to my clothing would have meant that I could have been attached to another crime scene. When I was taken into Smart Water Suite 2, there was also detritus over the floor. Again, if any had attached to my footwear or my walking stick, I would have been charged or suspected of being at another crime scene. I asked at 13:30 Officer Cadence to contact a solicitor, Nick Redhead from Redhead and Jones in Salisbury. Denied. I also asked the custody desk at about 16:30. I also asked Inspector Neighbour, Sergeant Jonathan Kilburn, and I was given Daniel Rowe, the Crown Prosecutor, who sat to defend me silently until I removed a post, which was Article 9, discrimination on religious beliefs. Told me we don't do that when I tried to remove it from the evidence and put it back in. I've been unable to get any of the recordings to prove this. I'm going to assume that it's been deleted, or it has been found, and it's so heinous nobody wants to admit. 6.3, bear with. Ever in charge of the criminal offence has the following minimum rights. 6.3a, Sergeant Jonathan Kilburn, Duty Inspector Neighbour, Sergeant J. Quarrell, 2919, and Daniel Rowe, CPS. To be clear, Sergeant J. Quarrell, 2919, was the releasing custody officer, Sergeant. I hold him no liability. He wasn't on shift when I was arrested. He was given me when he came on shift. Although I believe, and you'll see, in the bail sheet was printed at 3:11 a.m. on the 10th of the 9th, 2024. But the HIST report, the custody report, was printed at 23:17, which came in the Reeds report, or the Reeds file. I believe that I was again illegally held, and the duty inspector neighbour, who had already slammed the door on me when I'd asked for a solicitor, and then made false allegations that he was fearful for his safety whilst I sat on the bench with 3 codes of practice in front of me, knowing my rights very well. Article 6.3c, 2024, as listed above. G. Wills, Wiltshire Law and Citizen Vice Bureau added to that list. Article 7, no punishment without law. This is for sections 1 and 2. 2018 Magistrates Court, sentence probation 18 months, restraining order 2024, arrest and incarceration for 14 hours approximately, plus 6 months bail with an illegal investigation operated by a civilian, LCI, equals lead civilian investigator, confirmed by Morgan 270 and partner Sam, April 2025. Article 8. Right to respect for private family life. An officer advised Mrs. Karen Leanne Elliott to claim child benefit. Further allegation of entrapment as arrest the 15th of the 4th, 2018, 2202 was as a result of this documentation in Ross file and the Regina report. Again, I'll post it. Article 9, 1 and 2. Freedom of thought, conscience and religion. We touched on that with the angel numbers. Wiltshire Police, 10th of the 9th, 2024, 0020 to 125 approximately, plus Daniel Rowe presented Facebook post about angel numbers referenced in HIST Facebook account. Also showed Minister Nathan Hartley ordination to the church. All contacted parties are aware and allowed the breach to continue. To be clear, I'm listing the main perpetrators, but everybody I contacted after was told that they breached my human rights. Article 10. Freedom of expression. Facebook posts. This is how this is going on under Article 10. Nobody can take it down. The court evidence is open to public scrutiny because it's public records. There is no need for this post to be taken down. If you do, I'm going to sue you. Article 13. Right to an effective remedy. All contacted parties should, as per their roles, but an effective remedy as per Magistrates Admin Team's letter requested their autonomy to remedy Civil Court Swindon and High Court Bristol, as well as the contacted parties. They should have been aware that Article 5.5, right to an enforced retribution, compensation, remunitions, whatever you want to call it. Article 14. Prohibition of discrimination. Well, that's 9, 10 and 14 on a row. The same thing, Daniel Rowe. Courts 2018, probation 2018, Wiltshire Police 2024, conditional bail, and now Wiltshire Police 2025. Sergeant Martin 2971, even 2971 to be clear, took away my walking stick and deemed me undisabled. I asked him what medical experience or autonomy he had to make that judgment. He declined to answer. Now, there's lots of other articles in here that have been breached. Article 17, prohibition to abuse rights. 21, this is to now section 2, 21, this is all to do with judges. We don't need to go into that too much, because I would imagine that isn't for the majority of you. If you are, contact me. My address is 46 Affleck Close, Toothill, Swindon, Wilts, Sierra November 5, 8, Delta, Golf. I don't know how long that's addressed for, because I'm facing possession court on the 17th of November through non-payment of housing benefit. Again, they've breached Swindon Borough Council, Article 6, right to fair trial. I'd made a written request to ensure that this case would be heard in High Court Bristol, along with the High Court Bristol papers for the non-payment of housing benefit. Section 3, miscellaneous provisions. Article 53, I've got marked safeguard of existing human rights. Wiltshire Police, Daniel Road Court's full list of contacted parties. Article 56, territorial application. The provisions of this convention shall be applied in such territories with due regard, however, to local requirements. Protocols. Article 1, protection of property. Somebody's been coming in and stealing my property, and the police don't want to do anything about it. I reported it to a PSO, James, at Asda, on the Friday. It happened on the Friday, the 12th of September, when I was at High Court in Bristol. I reported it to James on the Monday, the 14th of September. Whilst I was reporting it to James, somebody else entered my property and cleaned up the mess that they'd made. They took away the evidence. Later that evening, about 6 o'clock, there was a police officer and a further PSO in the street, driving. I can't remember the vehicles' numbers. One was 153, I think. There was 2 vehicles. Anyway, I told them the same thing. I also told them that I'd spoken to Jess, the local police officer, on the 2nd of July, alleging that the Swindon Borough Council is stealing £42 a fortnight out of my ESA benefit. She did nothing. I also alleged that they fraudulently put in a claim for universal credit. Again, she told me to contact the council's internal fraud department or ring 101, even though there was a police officer sat in front of me. (11:32 a.m. on the 30th of the 9th, 2025, 2 days after I was arrested. In car 295, Jess and Andy turned up. I went to Gable Cross custody. I don't know if you can see that, not very well. I cut my hand quite badly. I fell and smashed a jar of coffee against the worktop, and a shard went into my hand quite badly. It needed butterfly stitches. Constable Beresford Smith, who you'll see documentation later, bandaged me with masking tape and a pad that I had. He told me he was in his personal vehicle and he was just going off shift, although I've no idea why his personal vehicle was in Ely Close. I knew it needed steri strips. I asked him if there was some at the police station. He told me yes. I went to the police station and I was arrested. 2 days later, on the 30th, 11:32, in car 295, Jess and Andy turned up. Really weird thing, Jess turned up with a taser. Andy didn't feel the need. Jess took control. She knocked the door. I opened it. She seemed like she wanted to come in. I had no reason not to. I invited her in, and she made the statement, "Well, that was easier than expected." I have no idea what she thought. I'm a law-abiding citizen. She then said that she was here to take the information from a burglary. She took a name, Pauline Hartley, the only other person that I gave a key to, and then requested it back. In the documentation, you'll see that I believe that she had one cut. She did nothing. I wanted evidence on her body cam of my hand, and I asked her to redress it for me. I told her that I wanted it for court evidence. She told me that her body cam was only for court evidence. I told her repeatedly again, yes, I understand that. I want it for court evidence. She declined and left. I alleged that a driving licence had been stolen. She took the new driving licence after I forced her and did nothing. I can't get the locks changed by Swindon Borough Council because they won't give me a crime reference number. Today I've reported burglary to James 71375, I believe, twice, with a list of 100 CDs that were stolen. Jess, I've alleged theft, fraud, which was proven because I showed her the ESA award and my bank statement showing that the difference in values. I can't get the doors changed, the locks changed, because she won't give me a crime reference number. But the burglary has been spoken to 2 PSOs and now 3 police officers. Now, I don't hold Andy accountable because he clearly was just along for the ride and didn't have a clue what was going on. 2 days later, another application form came from Strasbourg. Only this one, instead of being updated from Pastor Nathan Hartley, as can be seen here, I hope. Hang on, let's see if we can get that. I know it's in reverse, I don't know how to sort that out, but you can see it says Pastor in there. Pastor wasn't making enough of an impact, so I asked Strasbourg to update their records to Minister. After the arrest, this envelope is dated the 1st of October and it turned up about the 6th. And this one says Nathan Hartley. I don't know if Strasbourg have sent this because there's no information and they're saying we don't need your title, your name is enough. I don't know if they're taking the mickey out of me and saying it means nothing to us, or somebody else applied in my name. Sorry, just reading that. It's just to confirm. Anyway. That's nearly 40 minutes. With the 10 minutes before, that's nearly an hour. I'm going to knock it on the head here. You'll see the documents posted. Strasbourg, just one second. This is your evidence, or part of it. Just so we're clear, document 1 goes from page 1 to page 22. Document 2 goes from page 1 to page 23. It's all been evidented. These are the originals. I haven't got the money to post it to you, Strasbourg. I appreciate you work for free. Clearly so do I. Document 3, page 1 to page 5. Document 4 goes from page 1 to page 3. Document 5 goes from page 1 to page 9. Document 6 goes from page 1 to page 3. Document 7 goes from page 1 to page 12. Document 8, this is all Wiltshire Police bollocks, goes from page 1 to page 24. Document 9 goes from page 1. This is all to do with the arrest in September 2024. To page 47. To be clear, that's 47 pages, Wiltshire Police. The bulk of it. Document 10 goes from page 1 to page 10. I do have further evidence. This is what I've collated so far. I trust we have an accord. I trust you're going to actually turn up and do something. For the rest of you, you've got the address. My address will be posted on all the documents. Any questions, contact me. I can't guarantee to respond. I don't use email. I don't have a phone. They're all tapped by Wiltshire Police. I destroyed every piece of connected hardware I had. I drilled out all my hard drives, all my memory sticks, all SD cards. Thousands of pounds of digital stuff I destroyed because I couldn't tell who was entering my home illegally and my devices. I'll show you just one sec. This is the screen of a laptop that I barely used because I couldn't trust the information that it was being displayed because somebody was tapping my internet. On the 9th of the 9th, 2024, I told the two arresting officers, Harrigan and Cadence, that the flat upstairs had tapped my internet. You'll see that I was being charged with malicious communications. They told me to contact the local council. This was all on body cam, although I have to be clear, every officer that's entered this property has never told me that I'm on body cam, and the 3 arresting officers from 2018 didn't either, if they were wearing. Now I need to clarify something from the 2018 arrest. There was 3 officers. Brown, who was the arresting officer. I'm just going to give you a shoulder number. Bear with us. There we go. Brown, Constable 2584, DSCPT Team 4. And the Sergeant on shift at custody was Card 0232, who had deemed my arrest as lawful. Now, Brown didn't turn up alone. He came with 2 WPCs, old-fashioned, female police officers, constables, Johnson and Evans. I don't have the shoulder numbers. Nobody formally introduced them. Officer Brown walked into my home uninvited. He put me in handcuffs pretty much straight away. I had no contact with really Evans or Johnson, other than when we were leaving the property. Evans and Johnson were on the tarmac path. Brown was still in the property, and I was behind in handcuffs, and I pulled an internal door shut because I believed we were all leaving, as everybody was in front of me. Brown said, "That's it," pushed me back and pulled the cuffs forward and threw me to the floor like I was Superman. Evans and Johnson responded correctly, I believe. They thought their colleague was in danger. They ran in, either Johnson or Evans, sat midriff or pushed down on my midriff, and the blonde of the two, I believe to be PC Evans, although I can't confirm, held my legs. I've got hypersensitivity of scarring on my ankle, my left ankle. She was holding it rather tight, even though I wasn't fighting, and I hope that she'll confirm. And so will Johnson. I asked her very politely, "Whoever is holding my left ankle, I've got hypersensitivity of the scarring. Please can you move your hand?" Instantly she did. Both were present in 28-24 on the 9th of September. I believe that they were being set up. I had no quarrels or qualms with either of those officers. I need to make that very clear. I hold them unaccountable to anything. WPC Evans followed the van, which I insured after it was called because they'd made such a bollock of it. And I wasn't then going to she said, "I think he's calmed down. We can cancel the van." I responded with, "No, you can't. You decided to go down a path and I was happy to follow. You weren't backing out now, Constable Brown." She followed the van and asked if I was okay. As far as I'm concerned, WPC Evans is a good officer, and she showed me humility and humanity that evening. She escorted me into Smartwater Suite 2 on the 9th of the 9th, 2024, and didn't correspond with me at all. We've had no interaction. I requested Johnson and Evans to turn up at my home address because I have no telecommunications, to talk about the arrest in 2018. I asked, whilst arrested on the 28th of September 2024, the gentleman that took the fingerprints and the photo, for them to be informed of my arrest. A week later on the Sunday, the 5th or the 6th of October, the 5th, thank you. That was a bit weird, wasn't it? There's nobody here, I'm alone. I sent over Wiltshire Police's contact form for them to come forward to speak to me. When I sent the letter to the Magistrates Court with the plea of not guilty, I also asked them to contact me. I also asked the PCSOs, James, Josh and Naomi, for them to respond to me. Josh told me he would send an email. In 3 weeks, I sent 4 requests for those 2 officers to appear. Now, I'm going to assume that those requests were suppressed, because knowing or believing that I know them as I do, they would both have turned up to defend the CPS report for 2018. If you get this, WPC Evans, WPC Johnson, I'd very much like you to appear at my address so we can talk about the Crown prosecution paperwork, and I'd like to know the process. If you're unable, then we'll assume that you need to be charged with Articles 5 and 6. My hope is that that's not true. Anyway, that's now an hour with the 9 minutes from the previous video. Thanks for watching. Any problems, get in contact with me. Don't contact me via Facebook. I don't monitor it. It's just there. Your best bet is to write to me or turn up. I can't guarantee that I will write back straight away. Please bear with me. I'm on ESA. I earn no money from any of this. Thanks for watching.